Did you know that according to Genetic Literacy Project, more than 90% of corn, soybeans, cotton, canola, and sugar beets acreage in the U.S. are GMOs, or genetically modified organisms? GMOs can be found in anything from the clothes that you wear to the food that you eat and the drinks that you drink. People shouldn't be afraid of GMOs. I will demonstrate this by explaining the misconceptions of GMOs, the safety requirements of GMOs, and finally, how GMOs are actually helping the world. First off, the misconceptions of GMOs. There are many misconceptions out there about GMOs. Most of these stem from a lack of understanding of what GMOs are. GMOs are an organism that had their characteristics changed through the modification of their DNA, according to yourgenome.org. Because people lack this understanding, they tend to be afraid of it. According to the 5-year study done by the Library of Congress, found that the public understanding of biotechnology was relatively low, and that consumers were relatively unaware of the extent to which their foods included GMO ingredients, meaning that people had no idea that GMOs were already being used in their food. Now, secondly, GMOs are relatively new, meaning that people are afraid of new things. Even though humans have been playing with genetics for a very long time, starting clear back in 8000 BCE, when we used traditional and selective breeding to get our desired outcomes. Using GE, or genetic engineering, we can make those processes go by much faster. According to the FDA, or Food and Drug Administration, they first approved in 1982 the first use of GMO product developed through genetic engineering. Now, second, GMOs have a lot of safety requirements. Like any other food used in the U.S., they have to reach certain guidelines before given to consumers. One of those first tests is to see if people are allergic to it. If people are allergic to it, then they'll be deemed unfit for the consumer. Second, there can be no crossbreeding between the GMOs and non-GMOs. And third of all, during digestion, they make sure that no genetic material can be passed on from the GMO to the consumer. So far, there has been no known cases of this ever happening. According to the World Health Organization, each GM food should be tested and their safety assessed on a case-by-case basis using the international guidelines, meaning they can't treat one GMO food the same as the next. Then you have the EPA. The EPA is in charge of making sure that the pesticides used in protecting GMOs and non-GMOs from insects, weeds, and diseases does not pass through and get into our food. And lastly, due to new guidelines, by 2022, you'll start seeing labels on your canned foods and other foods that use GMOs, stating that they are a GMO product or non-GMO product. Lastly, GMOs are helping the world. GMOs are helping the world through many, many different ways. In 2050, we'll reach 9.7 billion people. Farmers will be expected to feed all of those people. With the little resources that we have and little land, we will create more deforestation and much more land will be ruined because of it. Why not use GMOs? GMOs use much less land than conventional farming. This, in return, will decrease deforestation. And according to the Alliance of Science, they allow farmers to produce more food with fewer inputs, meaning less seed, less water, less land going into the crops to be able to feed our growing population. Then, currently, GMOs are helping fight the current world hunger situation. According to the United Nations Chronicle, this may increase the overall productivity and offer developing countries a means to sustain themselves and reduce world hunger. This means that by using GMOs such as drought-resistant potatoes and yams, that these can help save world hunger. By using these, they send them to Africa and other places that have very poor climates for growing things, and they're able to grow these because they don't need a lot of water and they don't need a lot of other things to help them grow. So people are able to get a reliable food source that they can grow by themselves. And finally, there are certain GMOs that we have created, such as BT corn, that creates its own natural toxin to protect itself from insects instead of using pesticides that ruin our environment. We also have drought resistant, and they create less water and create less shortages of that water that we need for our drinking. They take up less land, which gets rid of deforestation. And finally, people shouldn't be afraid of GMOs. I have demonstrated this by explaining the misconceptions of GMOs, the safety requirements of GMOs, and how GMOs are helping the world. Instead of being afraid of something because you do not understand it, go out and learn more about it. Thank you.